What's up, math scholars and math haters? This is Mr. W. Today we're going to tackle question 16 in the 5th grade math questions that North Carolina released this past school year. We can see that a business has 384 cases of water, and there are 42 bottles of water in each case, and we're supposed to find out how many bottles of water the business has. Now, if you can see, this is different from all the other questions that we've done so far, because there's not A, B, C, and D. There's just this grid, and we have to actually figure out the answer without guessing, and fill in the number in this grid. So in order to do a problem like this, the key is we have to know how to multiply large numbers. There's two methods for this. I'll go over both methods. But I want to start by reading the problem very carefully and figuring out exactly what we need to do. I see the word each, and that tells me, along with if I see the word every or the word per, that I'm going to end up multiplying. Specifically, I'm going to end up multiplying the number of cases by the number of bottles in each case to get the total bottles of water that the business has, which means I've got to end up multiplying 384 times 42. Alright, so in order to do this, I'm going to have to get out my big board. So you're going to see a cut here. Okay, here's my big board, and I'm going to multiply 384 times 42. Now I'm going to start with what's called the standard algorithm. It's the way that I always learned how to do multiplication when I was in school. So I'm going to start by taking 384 and multiplying it all by 2. And to do this, I'm going to start with 2 times 4, which is 8. Let me get a different color pen so I can write that. 2 times 4 is 8. And now 2 times 8 is 16, also known as a 6 and then a 1. 6 tens and 100. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So I write all that down there, and I've essentially said that 384 times 2 equals 768. Now I'm going to erase this and cross this out, because now I'm basically going to multiply by 40. And in order to remind myself that I'm multiplying by 40, I'm going to put a 0 down here. So now I start with 4 times 4, or 40 times 4 if you prefer, which gets me 16, also known as a 6, and then I put a 1 up here. I move on to 4 times 8, which is 32, plus 1 is 33. So there's my 1's 3 and my 10's 3. 4 times 3 is 12, plus another 3 is 15. So I write my 15 down there. I add up all this stuff, and that's 8 1's. 6 plus 6 is 12 tens, or 2 tens and 100. 1 plus 7 plus 3 equals 11 hundreds, also known as 100 and 1,000. 1,000 plus 5,000s equals 6,000. And then 1 in the 10,000s place means that I just keep my 10,000 there. So I end up with 16,128. Now I'm going to go ahead and try this with what's called the box method, which is where I write 384 as 300 plus 80 plus 4. I write 42 as 40 plus 2. I make my box. I split it up by drawing my lines under and next to each plus sign. And now I just need to multiply. Start with 40 times 300. 4 times 3 is 12. And I had 1, 2, 3 zeros, so I'm going to write all 3 of those zeros here. So 40 times 300 is 12,000. I come over here to 40 times 80. This is 4 times 8, which is 32. 0, 0. I write those 2 zeros there, so 40 times 80 is 3,200. And now 40 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. And then I add that other 0 onto it, so that's 160. Now I come to 2 times 300. 2 times 3 is 6. I put my 2 zeros down to get 600. 2 times 80 is the same as 2 times 8, which is 16 with a 0 tacked onto it, so that's 160. And now 2 times 4 is just 8, and that's left alone. Now I just need to add all of this together. 12,000, 3,200, 600, 160, 160, and 8. In the ones place, all I see is my 8. In the tens place, I see 6 and 6. That's 12, also known as 2 tens and 100. In the hundreds place, I see 1, 3, 9, 10, 11, also known as 100 and 1,000. In the thousands place, I see 1, 2, and 3 gives me 6 thousands, and then in the 10,000s place, I just have the 1. So either way, I end up with 16,128, and it's at this point that I'm actually going to bring back my small board so that I can show us how we're going to enter this answer into the grid and into the bubbles that you will see below if you have to take this test on paper. So my answer was 16,128. Now, if you would do a problem like this and you would write your answer with a comma here, that's very good, but if we look at how our response is supposed to be written, we're not allowed to use commas. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a period for decimals, and a slash for fractions. So I need to just write my numbers, because if I write a comma in the middle, or if I do something like 1, 6, space 1, 2, 8, it's going to read that as me doing the question incorrectly. So here is how I would write my answer in, and then you'll also see bubbles. If you take this test on paper, you'll see bubbles down below each of the questions. If you take it on a computer or a tablet, you just have to type in this number and move on. But I would actually look for the 1 bubble and fill that in, and then I would look for the 6 bubble and fill that in, 1 bubble and fill that in, 2 bubble and fill that in, 8 bubble and fill that in. And then I'm, of course, not filling these in. I'm just showing you what you would need to do, what you would need to look for. Essentially, under each number, you bubble in the corresponding bubble.